Have you ever tried to get closer to someone, but the closer you move, the more they pull away? Or have you ever tried to increase your autonomy in a relationship, but the more you move towards autonomy, the tighter the grip of the other person gets? Stay tuned to find out why this happens and what to do to avoid this tug-of-war in relationships and experience the best of both connection and autonomy. Hey everyone, and welcome here. This is Becoming an Expert at Self-Leadership. I'm Maika, a psychologist, and self-leadership has a lot to do with balance. This video is about the balance between connection and autonomy. In any relationship, whether it's between a child and a parent, amongst friends, between siblings, the relationships between employers and employees, we always move back and forth between coming together and sharing connection and moving apart and pursuing separate paths. And there are a few things that are common to happen in this dance of connection. And if we are aware of them, we can avoid a lot of frustration, stress, and anxiety in relationships. In the following, I will call these things keys to be aware of. Key number one, everyone has different needs for connection and autonomy. We all need to feel connected sometimes and autonomous at other times, at least to some degree. These are two needs that everyone has, but they vary in their extent. Some people prefer connectedness and togetherness most of the time, whereas others prefer separateness and autonomy. This preference has to do with genes, life experience, and personal history. Key number two, our needs for connection clash if they're contrary. What happens when someone who has a high need for connection and togetherness and someone who has a high need for autonomy and separateness become close, right? Their needs clash. Often this happens more or less unconsciously, and conflicts that are in actuality about connection versus autonomy seem to be about toothpaste, living arrangements, or vacation destinations. It doesn't have to mean that these two people can't be connected, but they will have to work harder on it than when two people connect that are very similar in their need structure on this dimension. Key number three, our needs are heightened when we're stressed out. Another fact that is active in this dynamic is that when we're stressed, anxious, or feel threatened, we seek out our preferred state of connection or autonomy even more, because that's what soothes us back to a place of feeling calm and secure. And by the way, both of these strategies can be used in healthy and unhealthy ways. It's not per se a question of good or bad, but a question of the situation. Key number four, when people with contrary needs are both upset, they can spiral into stress and fights. This is because what they need is the exact opposite, and getting their need fulfilled depends on the other person. The person seeking connection needs to feel this togetherness and emotional intimacy because that's what soothes them and makes them feel secure and calms their worries about not being adequate or lovable. And the person who prefers autonomy needs space to feel reassured and to calm down, because that's what soothes their anxiety about not being adequate, lovable, not having enough space in relationships, or not being strong or independent enough. And what happens then is that the person seeking connection will try to come close, and the person seeking autonomy will increase the distance. And in that way, they are both not fulfilling each other's needs, and simultaneously threatening one another. Because to the person that seeks connection, when someone moves away and they're already insecure about themselves and the relationship, that will increase their anxiety. Whereas someone who seeks autonomy feels threatened by someone moving closer and closer and not giving them the space that they need. Key number 5, relationships improve when we get better at soothing ourselves and others. The solution to clashing needs is to get better at taking care of them. Everyone for themselves and for the person they're connected with. The more needs are taken care of, the less they can clash. That can mean working on our belief structure so that we're slower to get triggered and insecure. It can also mean taking more responsibility for our needs, increasing awareness for our needs and the needs of our partner. For someone who needs a lot of connection, that can mean to get better at soothing themselves whenever they feel inadequate or unlovable, to recognize that hurt and which activated beliefs are behind it, to see that these beliefs formed in the past and that they were never true to begin with, to learn to talk to themselves in a way that calms them down and brings them back to a place of feeling secure without necessarily needing someone else there in that process. It can also mean to learn not to take it personally when someone doesn't have time to connect, that we're all different in how much we want to connect, and that someone else may not want to connect just because they don't connect that much in any relationship. They just need more space and separateness. And it's not because they don't appreciate you as a partner, friend, parent, sibling, and so on. It can also mean to learn to experience alone time as something that is satisfying and to use it in a way that supports our values, to learn to be with ourselves. And it can mean to broaden and widen our circle of people we're connected with if we're someone who has a high need for connection, so that we don't over-rely on a few people. It can also mean to learn to give others space without feeling threatened by it. For someone who has a high need for autonomy and separateness, getting better at soothing themselves also starts with looking at the belief structure that is activated whenever they feel threatened. Why do they feel threatened? Is that belief still valid? What would be a belief that's more supportive? Getting better at taking care of their needs also starts with becoming more aware of their need for separateness, accepting it as something that is natural and completely okay, and taking care of it in a better way to begin with, not letting it build up until there's an explosion of needing a long stretch of space. To regularly schedule alone time that's high quality in their calendar so that they don't get overbooked with outings and get-togethers. To be aware of how much time you need after a time of connection to just recover or refill your batteries in your preferred way of being separate and autonomous. It can also mean to learn to relish connection more, to see how happiness doubles when we share it, that as humans we are a social species that thrives through connection, that connection and depending on each other is what gives us strength. And that if you communicate genuinely in relationships, they don't have to be suffocating. It can also mean to get better at soothing your partner or just everyone you're connected with right away. Giving small bits of encouragement, reassurance, being available so that their need for reassurance doesn't escalate. That way we can avoid this whole cycle of stress and fights exploding. Of course, most of us will benefit from learning strategies from both of these categories since we all have both needs. So we all need to know how to take care of our need for connection and autonomy, and in the people we're close to also. And also, we are connected with more than just one person. So in the relationship to one person, we may be the person needing more connection, and in relationship to the next, we may be the one who has a higher need for autonomy. I just wanted to throw that out there because obviously it's not as simple as just, labeling ourselves as either or. As always, thank you for watching. Consider subscribing. Till next time, take care. And remember, you can prevent a lot of fight, conflict, and stress in the relationships to the people you're close to if you get better at taking care of their need for connection and autonomy and your own needs for connection and autonomy, and soothing yourself and the other person so that when either one of you or both of you is in a stressful situation, it doesn't have to escalate.